Niall Horan discusses his admiration for Blake Shelton, respect for his former bandmates, and his ambitious new album, The Show. The leap from boy band glory to solo stardom is infamously difficult, but Niall Horan made it seem simple with his 2017 debut album Flicker. The Irishman built himself his own artistic identity by eschewing the pop of One Direction in favor of earthier, singer-songwriter fare, one hit at a time. When Heartbreak Weather, by 29-year-old Horan, was released, the COVID-19 pandemic had just begun, so marketing for the song abruptly came to an end. With time on his hands for the first time in a decade, the pop star looked inward and started writing The Show. His third album, due June 9 via Capitol Records, finds Horan laying his feelings bare as he opens up about love and the rigors of adulthood. If I made this album 4 years ago, I probably wouldn't have written some of those songs, the hitmaker muses. The pandemic was a good time for me to reflect on everything that's happened up until that point. After the sting of his stillborn sophomore project wore off, Horan returned to the studio, somewhat reluctantly. I had just written 1,000 songs, so I didn't do anything for a lot of the early pandemic, he remembers. Eventually, he sat down at the piano and wrote the title track of his third album. With its introspective lyrics and quirky, alt-leaning production, The Show would go on to set the tone of the whole project. I wanted to say things I hadn't said before, Horan says of the song, which recognizes that giddy highs and devastating lows are inevitable side effects of being human. Writing a song like that makes you start to think about what else you should be grateful for. It also encouraged him to be more vulnerable and open up about his fears and anxieties on the rest of the album. I guess it is quite contemplative, he says, but there's fun stuff in there too. And frequently, darkness and light intersect, as it does on new single Meltdown, a driving pop-rock song with a radio-ready chorus that also happens to detail Horan's struggle with anxiety. Exploring darker terrain was new to the hitmaker and he turned to New Zealand producer Joel Little for guidance. I've always been a huge fan of Joel's work, Horan says of the Grammy winner, who has worked with superstars like Lorde and Taylor Swift. Horan asked his A&R to send Little a demo of The Show and before long they were chatting on the phone. We both agreed on what the song should sound like, Horan says. I just knew he was the guy. Together, they incorporated alt flourishes into his sound, as evidenced by the anthemic lead single Heaven. There's definitely more of an alternative approach than probably we would have had previously, Horan says. It will be a dynamic setlist, he says. The typical arena performance lasts, 90 minutes. There are roughly 20 songs left over. I will thus practice too many songs and then choose some as we go. Horan vows to deliver highlights from his expanding collection of meticulously made pop songs, while The Show will predominate the setlist. Please buy a ticket, I ask in a public service announcement to those who enjoy my album.